Good afternoon. We're here in Santry Stadium. It's July 2015 and this is a continuation of West Leinster schools, Leinster schools and indeed Irish schools in an attempt to promote and preserve coaching ideas through the making of a coaching DVD. Now we are going to get into the area of officiating, and today we're very happy to have Cyril Whyte, Dr Cyril Whyte, a former sprinter back in the day. A young man enjoyed sprinting in the 40s and 50s, and then he got into track and field, coaching, and then starting. Now he has been a great servant of Irish athletics, and I'll break that down to schools athletics, local, provincial and national schools athletics, international schools when it's held here, and then for national championships, BLE or AAI as it is now, and then international meetings which have been held in Santry and indeed Belfield from time to time over the years. So we're getting a lot of experience here today, and hopefully we'll compact it on the DVD and people can learn from this the basics, the fundamentals and the priorities of the sprint start, or how to start sprints and indeed all races. Cyril, as a young man, 18 years of age, went with a group of athletes to the London Olympics in 1948 and developed a passion and interest from there on. And he made it to the 2012 Olympics, having retired from university life, professorship, and actually was there with his grandchildren. So that's the spectrum of time that we're dealing with. So we're very delighted, pleased and proud to have Dr. Cyril Whyte here today with us on a beautiful day in Santry. Thank you.
Well, hello. I'm, as Phil has just told you, Cyril Whyte. And I've been doing all things in athletics. Started as a competitor, went on to other things when my competitive days were over, and officiated, administrated, coached, and spent most of my time really as a coach and as an official. But what kind of official? Well, I've had to go at all kinds, the jumps and the throws and judging and timing, but I found that my best place to be was actually starting. So I've been starting now for quite a number of years, and in different places. Most of it, of course, is here in Ireland, but I've also started in Britain, America, Canada, Germany, believe it or not, when it was just Germany, Italy, Spain, and believe it or not, also France. So I've had all that kind of background experience of starting at all levels, from, to be honest with you, Ragball Rovers Sports Day up to a World's Championship, a World's University Championship incidentally, but it was still a World's Championship, national, international meetings and so on. And Phil and his colleagues thought that maybe with my background and experience, having been a teacher, maybe I could pass on some of this experience to you to help you become a starter, or make you a better starter, or at least give you the kind of experience I had that you may not have had or you may not have thought of, but you might find of use. So that's what I'm doing, just giving you certain kinds of experiences I've had and then putting it into practice in regard to seeing some athletes, or one athlete here, starting so that you can see how what I'm going to talk about is applied in the actual practical situation. First thing I want to say is that while people don't recognize this, the starter is the most important track official. Every race needs a starter, and very close to 70% of all athletic events in a full athletics meeting are running events. So if it's less than that, say they don't have some of the events in, like the pole vault and hammer, it means that there are more of the time devoted to running than you'd have otherwise. So the starter is very important, and the starter has two kinds of things that he must pay attention to. The first is his responsibility, what in fact is he supposed to do? Or what in fact is she supposed to do? So where would you start to? That's the first thing. And the second is, what authority does the starter have to make sure that what he has to do or what she has to do is actually done? Now, the first thing is the starter, and only the starter, can warn and disqualify an athlete from taking part in the event. And secondly, the starter has, by his or her very action start the electric timing or the hand timing or both. So the starter is not just alone in starting a race, but starts the electric timing or the hand timing. So the starter is an important person, and the starter must know his or her job and how to execute it. That's what we're going to be talking about. Now, there are two kinds of races a starter starts. All races up to including the 400 meters, that's the hurdles and the relays, as well as the 400 meter flat races, must be started by the commands on your marks, when you're on your marks, set, and the sound of the gun. This very simply means that all athletes must actually get down on the marks and get set when the starter tells them to do so. The second is for all races above that, that's 800 meters up, that the starter says on your marks, and the athletes move up to the starting line but do not touch the line, and then when they're all in the set position, the starter fires. Now both of these requires a different kind of concentration, and the starter has to concentrate as much as any of the athletes. In fact, I would say the starter concentrates even more, because in a race an athlete is only to concentrate in his own running, whereas the starter has to concentrate everybody that he's starting, concentrate on everybody that is starting. And some races may have 20 or 30 people in it, like some of the long distance races, 10,000 meters. And the marathon, they may have dozens and dozens and dozens. In a short sprint race up to 400 meters, the maximum run would be 8, because they've got to run in lanes. So there you are. These are the two things we have to talk about. And then the second thing, or I should say the third or fourth thing, is what equipment do you need to be a starter? Well, one of the things, and all starters have to have access to this if they don't have it themselves, is a starting pistol. And there are different kinds of starting pistols. There is a .22, the small one, which is the best one I would suggest that people start with. And then of course there's the 3.8 and the 4.5. Now these are pistols that are actually making a far bigger noise. Let me show you a 3.8 starting pistol. Yeah. Now this is a 3.8 starting pistol that makes a very big bang. It's a service pistol, it's a Webley pistol, and it will fire cartridges, not bullets, just the cartridge that makes a bang. Here, as you can see, and here are the cartridges in, and we're ready to fire it. Now, we will cock the gun and make sure that the thing is underneath the firing mechanism, and then when athletes are in the set position and the starter sees everybody steady, you fire. Now, it's important, especially with a gun, that you fire up into the air and you hold the gun directly above your head so that the sound will go to each side. Hold it there and you may get it in your ear. So you hold it directly up here. This is the 2.2, the much smaller one, and smaller cartridges and so on. You need a license actually for this gun and a license for this as well. To get going, you don't need a starting pistol, but you do need a whistle. Here's the whistle. And even when you have your starting pistols, you still need a whistle to make sure that the judges and timekeepers either be manual timekeepers or electronic timekeepers, are in fact ready for the race. There's no point in starting a race if the judges and timekeepers are not ready for the race. You've got to see that they are ready. And you do this by blowing your whistle. So get a good whistle with sharp sounds. For example, they'll hear that and they will signal to you when they're ready. You have told them that you're ready, but you have to wait till they're ready. And if they wave that way, they're ready. The alternative is to wave that way, which means they are not ready. And you don't start till they're ready. So you have to wait for the judges and timekeepers. But you make arrangements with them before you start. You're starting that day and everything works out well. They're going to be 100 meters away from you. And in a 200 meters where you're starting over far side, you may be 180 meters away. You need a very sharp blast on your whistle, and you need to be able to signal to them that you're ready or that you are not ready. Okay, now let's move on then. What else do you need? Well, you need a program, and the program tells you the timetable who is actually running. And this is the program. Now, programs can be beautiful. This one is very nice. This is the Irish All-Ireland Schools Track and Field Championship this year down the Tullamore Stadium in County Laois in Tullamore. Beautiful stadium, lovely place to go, great athletics down there. And would you believe even the great Roger Bannister was there timing the first 4-minute mile ever in County Laois, won by James Nolan, who actually comes from Tullamore. And there were 2 other runners in the race. There were 3 in the race. I started the race, and the chief timekeeper was, of course, Roger Bannister. And would you believe it? The 3, first, second, and third, all broke 4 minutes for a mile. And Roger Bannister said, I was standing beside him when they got the time, he said, you know, on my very best first 4-minute time, I'd have been 4th in that race. I wouldn't have been in the top 3. So that'll show you how things have come on since in athletics. But in my case, I was really honoured to be asked to be the starter for that race. And Jim Nolan ran a terrific run that day, and it was a great race, and I always remember it. But one had to be properly organised and ready and all the rest, which we were, of course. Well, what else do you need for equipment? Well, I would suggest you bring a screwdriver, a small screwdriver, and a pliers, because you never know, cartridges get stuck and have to be pulled out. It's not very good to try and pull them out with your fingers. Use a small screwdriver, bring it with you, or a pliers, grip and pull it out. And anything else that you find might be useful. Now, so that you're seen by the judges and timekeepers and by the athletes who are running, you should be distinctively dressed. Now, I'm distinctively dressed. I have my red top, red shirt here, and I can be seen all over the place. Now, I know the athlete you're going to see starting in a few minutes is also in red, but he'll be on the track. I'm off the track. So, if you want to know where the starter is, you just look for him. And he will be in some colour, or she will be in some colour. Excuse me, ladies, we want more of you, but there are not as many as men. That's why I tend to say, you know, he rather than he and she. But I'm saying it now, that you can be clearly and easily identified no matter where you are in the ground. And remember, the starter has to move around the ground. They all don't start at the finish line. Some start here, the 100 meters, the hurdles, all start 100 meters away, in fact even a little more. And the same for the other events. So a starter has to walk around starting at the finish, and then where the hundreds are, 100 down, the start of the home straight, or the end of the back straight, or at the start of the back straight, or all over the ground. It doesn't make any difference. So starters have to be fit to some degree to be able to walk around. Let me give you a little secret. The judges and timekeepers, they always stay in the same place, and they've seats that they sit on. There are no seats for starters, and starters have to walk all around the place. So if you become a starter, or if you're interested, maybe you have to do a little bit of walking, but it doesn't do you any harm. I always feel great after an athletics meeting because I've walked around all day, I've been part of the meeting, I've enjoyed it, and hopefully the athletes at the starting find that I've helped them in achieving what they want to achieve in the competitions that they're competing in. Now, after all that, the only way to become better at starting is to start. It's a practical thing. And you can listen to me talking till the cows come home, but that doesn't make you a better starter. You become a starter and become a better starter by actually starting. And that's what we're going to go to in a minute. But just let me mention one thing to you. It is important to know what you're doing. and to make sure that those you're starting know what you're doing. And remember, the starter is in command of the start. So when the starter says, on your marks, the starter means it, and you get on your marks. The starter says set, the starter means it, and you get set. And when the starter fires the gun, you start on the sound of the gun. Firing. If you go before that, it's a false start, and at all races from 18 years of age upwards, you're disqualified if you actually move before you hear the sound of the gun. In schools competition, that's up to under 17s, you get a warning. We have decided, in my judgment correctly, that, you know, young people can be a little nervous and not as experienced as older athletes. So, you know, if they break, okay, false start, they get a warning, but the second time they'll be disqualified. But the big test is how much confidence does or do the athletes have in the starter. If they've no confidence in the starter as a starter, you're in difficulty. If they have, starting becomes good, pleasant, and everybody enjoys it. And I like to think I'm that kind. And may I say that the starter's job is to see that the athletes get a fair start according to the rules of competition that apply at the time the race takes place. And now we'll have a look at being put into practice. Well, now let's put all I've been saying into practice. And remember, starting is a practical activity, and the more you do of it, the better you can. All right, we have this lovely athlete here who's going to give us 3 starts with what you might have. The first will be, if you haven't got a whistle or a gun, you can get them going on the command, go. The second will be with the whistle, and the third will be with a start. Okay, stand behind your starting blocks. On your marks. Give them plenty of time to set it up. And he is now set. Set. Go! Now that wasn't too bad, but he's not used to going on the command go. He's more used to going on the starting pistol, which we'll get to after the next start. The important thing is your tone of voice when you're giving the commands. You don't shout at people. You give them the command in a way that says you mean it. And the second command, set, you don't say it sharply. Set! This is a mistake. And you see it even at Olympic level, and it's still a mistake. The athlete is waiting, or the athletes who are starting, are waiting for a sharp sound. You do not give that sharp sound by saying set. You have to say set, but you elongate it. Set. And then whenever you set, you fire. Now let's have a look at a start with the whistle. Stand behind the starting blocks. On your mark. Once again, you give them time to get settled. There we are. He's now settled. Set. Good. Now, it's a little bit better because he's getting used now to a sharp sound. In this case, it was the whistle. Now, I would take it that everybody involved in starting would have a whistle. If, for any reason you haven't, you still say go, and you say it sharply. Go! A whistle blown sharply. And now we will start with the sound of the gun. And it's a loud bang. And he will move on the sound of the gun, not on what he thinks is going to happen, but actually, and he hears the gun, the sound of the gun. Now, one of the things you must do at this stage is, works, make sure that the gun is primed like that. Secondly, get your hands around the gun and you put it up just before you say set, but not beforehand, because this gun weighs very close to 2 pounds. You're starting a whole meeting and you put 2 pounds over your head every start. You can be pretty tired by the time you get halfway through, let alone the finish. So you only put it up before you say set, which means you will have it up for only seconds. And this is how it. Fellas, can I ask you to go behind? Thank you. Thank you. Now you must be ready for that, because if somebody goes in front of you and you're starting, make sure they go behind you. Okay, we're ready to go. On your marks. Now remember, in a race like this you'll have 8 heats, and 8 heats will take longer to get on their marks and relax before 1, later than 1. Now he's on his mark, we assume the rest are on the mark. Now you put the gun up directly over your head so that the timekeepers can see it. Set. And the race is underway. And that's just how it's done. It looks easy when you've practiced it many times and you know what you're doing. But like everything else of a practical nature, it gets better by practicing it, by doing it, not by listening to me talk. So what I would say is, once you get the fundamentals right and you know what you're doing, then you practice it. And when you see a fellow like me starting that you've just seen, you're seeing somebody who's been at it for the better part of half a century, which is a long, long time. But all I can say is that in that I have got great satisfaction, because I felt, and the athletes I've started have told me, and other officials have told me too, that they got something out of my starting. And what they got was not moans and groans about how bad the starter was. They enjoyed the starting and got good performances. And on that note, I will say to you all, thank you very much for listening and for viewing. Good luck to you in starting, and have a good day.
Next.